All right, this is 5-6 factoring quadratic trinomials notes. And this is where the first coefficient is not 1. So if you notice the trinomial that I'm asking you to factor, it now has a leading coefficient of 3. So it's 3x squared instead of just what you're used to seeing as x squared. So it's just a little bit different. We just have to kind of pay attention to how this 3 affects the way we can factor it. So I'm going to use the area model. If I draw the area model here, I know that 3x squared has to be in this first box, so the only way to multiply to get 3x squared is if you do 3x times x. And then in this last box, we know it's going to be minus 4, because then the two last terms will multiply to give us negative 4. So now we just have to figure out what we can fill in the middle two boxes with to get to the middle term. So we need to get to the middle term of negative 11x. So whatever goes here and whatever goes here has to add up to negative 11x. So we just have to kind of play around with it a little bit. So factors of 4 to try, because this number times this number has to give us negative 4. We can try 1 and 4 or 2 and 2. And then one of those has to be negative to get to negative 4. So as you can see, the only option that works is negative 4 and 1. Because if we do x times 1, we get 1x. Negative 4 times 3x gives us negative 12x. So when we add that up, we get our middle term of negative 11x. So therefore, how to factor 3x squared minus 11x minus 4? You have 3x plus 1 times x minus 4. So there's our final answer right there. And notice you can't switch this 1 and 4, so it's not going to be able to be 3x minus 4 and x plus 1, because if we switched it around here, this would be a 1 instead of a negative 4, and you get 1 times 3, which is 3x, and then this would be a negative 4, and this would be negative 4 times x, which is negative 4x, and that wouldn't add up to give you your negative 11x for the middle terms. So you have to make sure they're all in the correct spots. All right, we can also factor by grouping, and that's like your reverse distributive property that we did in the last section of notes. So if you liked that way, then you can pay attention to this. Otherwise, you can just skip along to the practice examples. So if we have to factor 3x squared minus 11x minus 4 by grouping, you want to find numbers that multiply to negative that multiply to negative 12. So you take your leading coefficient of 3 and then your constant term negative 4, and you multiply those together to figure out what the numbers are that have to multiply to negative 12 and add to be negative 11. So we know that negative 12 times 1 equals negative 12, and negative 12 plus 1 equals negative 11. So you're going to split your middle term of negative 11x into negative 12x plus x. So here I just rewrote it using the numbers we just found. So 3x squared minus 12x plus x minus 4. So now we're going to do exactly what we did when I showed you how to do the reverse distributive property. So you group your first two terms and your last two terms together. So we have 3x squared minus 12x plus x minus 4. And then you're going to factor out the GCF from each grouping. So the GCF of 3x squared minus 12x is 3x. So I have 3x times the quantity x minus 4. And then it's just going to be plus 1 times x minus 4. There is no GCF of x minus 4, so you can just take out a 1. So then the common factor between this is x minus 4, because you can see x minus 4 is being multiplied in both terms. So we factor out an x minus 4, and then what's left is your 3x plus your 1. So 3x squared minus 11x minus 4 factors to x minus 4 times 3x plus 1. So the key here is when you split up your middle term before you group it, you need to figure out what adds to be negative 11x, but instead of multiplying to negative 4 like we're used to when the leading coefficient is just 1, you have to do 3 times negative 4. So it's going to be multiplying to negative 12 and adding to negative 11x. All right, here's just another example, 2x squared plus 7x plus 5. So I set up the area model. So 2x squared is going to have to go here, so it's 2x and 2x. And then plus 5 is going to be in the last box, so my only options are 5 and 1. So then you just have to make sure 5 and 1 are in the appropriate spot. So if I put it as 2x plus 5, I go 5 times x, which is 5x, and 2x times 1, which is 2x. So that does add to give me my middle term of 7x here. So then I know it's going to be 2x plus 5 times x plus 1. And then over here I did it factor by grouping, so if you are interested in that, here's the solution for the factor by grouping. And then here are the example problems that we completed in class, so you can see the work done out using the area model for all these 6. So try it on your own first, and then you can come back and check your answers.